There's an alleged audio phone conversation that has leaked that allegedly involves leader of opposition, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi, together with his counterpart, Minister responsible for community development, Honorable Doreen Mwamba. Allegedly, this is an AI-generated phone call that was between the two of them. But I think what is much more implicating is what they were talking about, you know, in that audio. Leader of opposition, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi, did a statement this morning to the effect that it was the audio that was AI generated, and everybody, you know, on social media has gone berserk in really laughing and making jokes about it, that wow, we didn't know that AI could chew and speak very fluent Bemba, you know, because I think the two people that were speaking in that audio were speaking very fluent Bemba, and it flowed like normal humans. Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi said that was AI. Also, it comes from the background of the fact that just yesterday at the Radisson Blu, Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi did have a press briefing. Part of the things that are in the audio, he did speak about them. He did speak of how he's not scared of historians, Sishiwa, as well as a mature member of parliament, you know, Honorable Mao Sampa. And he called them names, he called them, you know, useless individuals, he called them chaps, you know, and all that. Mm-hmm. But I think also one of the things that he mentioned was that he refutes allegations to the effect that he's a paid gun by the UPND, and he remains steadfast, and he would die representing the people of Zambia and the people of Mafinga. He would do everything possible. But also he went on to throw threats at the Patriotic Front that those that want to convene an illegal press conference or illegal convention, you know, he will beat them up himself. He also committed to go into Mfue and ensure that anybody who is wearing a PF regalia and campaigning for a candidate of the Patriotic Front will be beaten, because the Patriotic Front is not participating in that particular by-election. I
mean, quite a lot that came from that. I mean, we've already gotten straight into today in a snap. And, I mean, definitely this has been one of the biggest stories from the day involving the Mafinga Member of Parliament. But like you've mentioned, he has denied having been the person in that particular audio, and saying that it is it's AI. I know we'll be speaking more into this as well, as we will be joined by the United Party for National Development Media Director, Mr. Mark Sumue, as we delve more into some of these issues here, because quite the allegations, quite the implications rather, yep, have come through from this particular audio. Earlier, also in our news, we did cover how stakeholders have reacted to that. We saw the Socialist Party President, Dr. Fred Membe, after coming from the courts, getting to respond. NGOCC as well were implicated, and they had to come out. The chairperson through Madam Katere had to come through and clarify that they were not paid, as alleged from that leaked audio, to support Bill 7. As we know, the NGOCC had supported that, looking at the content of it. The fact that women also get to be one of the proposals for women to be included in our politics and in our democracy deliberately through the proposal in Bill 7. But having denied that they were not paid they were not bribed to support Bill 7, according to the allegations in that particular audio. And not only that, if you look at it, there's a lot of implications at a presidential level. You're looking at implications at a different level. And let's also remember that part of what we are dealing with here is also international bilateral relations. We're talking about South Africa, we're talking about Zambia. So if you listen to that particular audio, there's a lot of implications that come through from that. And it's not the first time. It's not the first time Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi, well, he has denied, but it's not the first time he's been involved in, implicated himself or involved in something of this particular nature. Let's remember that recently he made a statement about the diplomats, and it took the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation to come out and distance the government from the statements of Mr. Robert Kyagulanyi. In this case, he denies that it's not him in that audio, but many will find it very difficult to believe, because they're looking at what precedence has been shown by the man in question here. So there's really a lot there. But at the same time, Andrew, let's also keep in mind that with the digital world we're living in today, and with the coming in of AI, there's a lot of fabrications that get to be made. We cannot run away from that. It is true that with AI, things that are not real are made, and sometimes they look real, sometimes they sound real.
Yeah, that's true.
But the only thing is, people should not now to want to use that, to take advantage of it, and in this case, try to either as a way of distancing themselves from things they actually did, or those who get to use it to sort of try to bring others down. So it's a twofold situation here.
Fantastic. There's a number of tools that Google has to check and verify whether information is true, or not. And I think some of the people that have already tested the audio to check the authenticity of it, have come to a conclusion that these are humans involved, in that particular conversation. But obviously, Honorable Chawinga says he's reported this to the police, and so it's going to be interesting to see how then the police are going to react to this. But also another big news story that we're going to be looking into is the fact that Faith Msonda has been jailed, but only for 30 days, Chimweka, and fined a 24 kwacha. Our reporter Bess Jerry did do a story, and he did bring us this story.
A late-night incident at Community House, the residence of President Hakainde Hichilema, has landed journalist Faith Msonda behind bars. Dressed in pajamas and demanding to see the First Lady, Ms. Msonda's conduct has earned her a 1-month jail sentence and a 24 kwacha fine for disorderly behavior. The Lusaka Magistrate Court has sentenced journalist Faith Msonda to 1 month imprisonment and fined her 24 kwacha for disorderly conduct after storming Community House, President Hakainde Hichilema's residence, on the night of July 1st into the early hours of July 2nd, 2025. Ms. Msonda was charged with idle and disorderly conduct contrary to Section 178, subsection 1 of the Penal Code, Chapter 87 of the Laws of Zambia, following her actions, which the court has heard were likely to cause a breach of the peace. When the matter came up before Acting Chief Resident Magistrate Irene Wishimanga for presentation of the statement of facts, the prosecution has told the court that Ms. Msonda arrived at Community House around 23:45 hours, claiming she wanted to see the First Lady Mutsinda Hichilema over a delayed court matter, personal issues, and her children's school challenges. According to the facts, she refused to leave despite several attempts by security officers to reason with her. Her vehicle was parked near the gate and monitored by officers, and she later disembarked, reportedly dressed in pajamas, requesting a wrapper to appear decent before the First Lady. Ms. Msonda was detained after refusing a breathalyzer test and declining to sign the arrest book. The state informs court she was initially charged with espionage, but the charge was later reduced by the Director of Public Prosecutions to idle and disorderly conduct. Appearing before Magistrate Irene Wishimanga, the convict changed her plea to guilty and admitted the facts read. The court has convicted her based on her admission and the facts presented by the state. In mitigation, her lawyer, Charles Chingano, has stated that she is a first offender, a mother of 2, and remorseful over her actions. The court has, however, handed down a 1-month simple imprisonment and a fine of 24 kwacha, failing which she will serve an additional month. Magistrate Wishimanga says the timing of the incident was inappropriate and urged citizens to follow proper channels when seeking redress. Best Jerry, reporting for Diamond News.
Well, if you ask me, Chimweka, 30 days is not so much time to be in incarceration, but others would argue that even a week feels like hell, being behind bars. But she's also been fined a 24 kwacha, which I think is not too much money.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we've got to see. I think people have been quite shocked. Some people are shocked about the amount. But if you look at the charge here, if we talk about idle and disorderly conduct, I think some citizens have been in this situation before, in what would be commonly called shishita and so on. And you find that if you look at the fines that people pay, it's not, well, I mean, I know we're talking about amounts, it's quite subjective, but looking at this particular charge, it shouldn't be very surprising that the amount came to that. I remember also a similar situation happened at the time Emmanuel J. Banda, the former Pitoke Member of Parliament, also was found guilty by the courts. And looking at the charge at that particular time, I think he paid, there's also an amount that was far less than what a lot of people were expecting, but people sometimes tend to forget what the actual charge is. According to, I mean, this particular story has been quite interesting from the time the news got out. I think the first information people had is that this happened in the early hours of that particular day. We heard that it was 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Eventually the lawyer came through, Mr. Charles Changano, speaking on the same thing. This happened around 20 hours, but what we're getting now from the facts submitted before the court is that it happened around 23-45 hours. And, well, I know there've also been other, on a lighter note, sentiments around issues of the community house. And during the mitigation, the lawyer actually brought this up, that it's interesting to know that the place is called community house, but the community cannot really visit that house, contrary to what one would expect for a place known as a community house, and perhaps the name needs to be changed there. But overall, she admitted. I know others also talked about maybe her state. Was she intoxicated or not? But we're now getting information that she even refused to be breathalyzed. But insisted that she wanted to meet the First Lady and discuss quite a number of issues, personal issues.
Actually, she said court issues.
Well, court issues was one of them.
One of the things that the court said was that that's not the place to discuss court issues. Court issues are discussed in court and not at a private residence, and that's the residence of the president. But another big story that is in the news today, Chimweka, and we are privileged to have Engineer Abel Ngandu here, is that he was arrested. The story reads, the Zambia Police Service, through the anti-fraud unit at service headquarters, has apprehended Abel Ngandu, aged 53, of plot number 26317, PHI area in Lusaka, for the offence of theft by director contrary to section 279 of the Penal Code, chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. Mr. Ngandu, who is the managing director of Ngandu Consulting Limited, is alleged to have stolen company funds amounting to 575,000 kwacha. Brief facts of the matter are that between October 17, 2024 and March 2025 in Lusaka province, an agent on the company, Mr. Lusungu Nyerenda, managing director of Walumat Auto Company Limited, sold 7 motor vehicles on behalf of Ngandu Consulting Limited. The proceeds from the sales, amounting to 575,000 kwacha, were deposited into Mr. Ngandu's personal account instead of the company's designated account. Investigations have revealed that Mr. Ngandu subsequently used the said funds for personal gain. He has since been released on bond and is expected to appear in court soon. We have Engineer Abel Ngandu. What I know is that this is his company, and so let's get to hear from him. Engineer, thank you so much for making time to be a part of tonight's edition of Diamond Live. Allegations here, are that you've stolen this amount of money and that this was supposed to go to the company but instead has gone into your personal account. What is your reaction to this story that is trending?
First of all, it is very laughable. How can I steal from my own company? I'm the majority shareholder of Ngandu Consulting. I founded Ngandu Consulting more than 22 years ago. First of all, it started as Ngandu UWP, then it became Ngandu Consulting. Can you imagine that's nonsense, that anybody can say Mr. Ngandu has stolen money from his own company. Do they know how much money I've invested in the company? Do they know how private companies work? Where you invest a lot of your money, the company owes me a lot of money because I've invested a lot of money in the company. What is happening today is the work of my 2 partners, David Mwale and Liengu Mumbua, who 2 months ago decided to separate from the company. Okay, they decided to separate from the company, and when they wanted to separate from the company, they wrote a letter to me, and I told them, look, please offer these shares to me give me the right of first refusal, of which I've been waiting for up to now. They have been dilly-dallying on how to come out. But what they have done going forward is that they have become malicious, and that is what has led actually to what has happened today. They go there, they accuse me to say I've stolen money from my own company, and that's ridiculous. And actually, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Actually, I can tell you, they are working with a former press assistant, George Chela. George Chela, they are working in collaboration with him. We had actually, I'll tell you, I differed with George Chela about 2 to 3, 4 years ago. And from that time, he has been fighting me and all that kind of stuff for no apparent reason. So this is the work of George Chela, who has been trying to actually tarnish my name. In the last 2-3 years.
Of course,
and he decided, yes,
we don't have Mr. Chela here to defend himself.
Okay,
on
yeah,
that.
but I'm just telling you, I've got proof. I can tell you, I've got proof that actually he had written to our company, one of our company called AOD Plant and Fleet Management, which I can give you the document, claiming that he has shares in an engineering company. And I want to say this. Yes, I'm saying, but please, you can come and get that proof even tomorrow. I can give it to you. But he was claiming that he has got shares.
Yeah.
That I had offered him shares in an engineering company. Why would I why would I offer shares to a non-engineer, a journalist? For what? And I can tell you, from there onwards, he has been very malicious. And they have teamed up with my partners who are leaving the office, by the way. They resigned about a month ago from the company. And all this that you have seen is pure sour grape. It is out of spite. And I can tell you, I have not stolen any money from my company.
But is there
I've been running my company for the last 22 years.
Is there any iota of truth that this money is amounting to 575,000 kwacha was deposited instead in your personal account?
You know, first of all, there's nothing wrong. First of all, I own this company. There's nothing wrong in people paying into my personal account. There's nothing wrong in that. What remains afterwards is administrative on how to deal with it. The company owes me a lot of money. Okay? When I'm putting in my personal money into the company, it is not criminal. When I claim back my money, it is criminal. What is that? That is unacceptable. You know, this, I can tell you right now, I want to put it on record. I have not done anything. That is my company. I'm the majority shareholder. And those people have reported me, I can tell you. Those people, I formed this company 22 years ago. First, I employed them for 7 years. Then I broke up from UWP Consulting of South Africa, where now I invited these guys to join me. It is called Ngandi Consulting because it's mine. These people I invited, they never put not even a ngwe into the company. Then today they should be talking about to say Ebo has stolen money and whatever. This is totally out of malice. And it will be defended in the courts of law. It will be defended because there are records. And every private company has got records.
Before we let you go, Engineer Ngandu, what was your experience like also? I mean, having been before the police and generally how the matter was handled. We'd like to believe, obviously, you got, for you to be here means you got bond. How was the situation with the police?
No, I came out. I mean, look, I was given a police bond. I came out. I was given a police bond, you know. I was given a police bond. I went there. I complied, whatever. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Yeah. This is a very straightforward issue. You know, first of all, if the police wanted, they would have come to the office. We showed them the records. But look, every person has got a right to go and report to the police and to make whatever wild allegation they want to make. Okay? But, yes?
Go ahead.
Yes, every person has got a right to go there and make these crazy allegations. I mean, can you imagine to say Ebo Ngandu stole money from Ngandi Consulting, the company owns? That's ridiculous.
Engineer Ebo Ngandu, Managing Director at Ngandu Consulting, thank you so much for making time to
You're
speak
welcome.
with us. Yeah, all right. So that is ex-EIZ chief who has been arrested, but also he has given his side of the story. And yeah, he says he's innocent. It's his company, and he says he'll deal with the other things later. But tonight, Chimweka, we have the UPND media director in Max Muwe. Obviously, we're going to be speaking to a number of issues, one of them being whether the UPND is on course with its campaign promises, but also many are quoting him for what he said today by jumping on the bandwagon to believe that the leaked audio that is circulating on social media is AI generated. He's going to be speaking with us right after these short messages.
I've been to. Into the box. Delicious. Sprinkle some spring onion.
Have you heard about the lady who knows how to cook? She makes the best noodles with the special. She adds little veggies, spices and meats, and serves them hot and fresh down in every street. Mama Benson noodles, hey, you make me smile. Mama Benson noodles, tasty every time. Mama B is making Benson tonight. Mama B is making Benson tonight. Mama B is making Benson tonight. Mama B is making Benson tonight.
Good, better, Binto.
Pascal is showing his boss the efficient new technology they've installed. She is pleased, but now she's asking, why is that still there? Pascal explains that the wells can store many, many messages. The boss is not so pleased anymore. If you haven't upgraded your contact center yet, it's time to get business done better with MTN Business.
One, two, three, and all my clothes are squeaky clean.
Quick to remove the dirt and stains and the fresh remains.
Never seen nothing like it, that's exactly why I like it.
So whether color white or black, it brings a new right back.
People's game, they will be bubbling about this one for weeks and months to come.
Wherever you are, whatever your reason, it's on SuperSport all season long. Reconnect to DSTV Compact and GoTV Super Plus today and get the best football on us.
To know where we're going, we must remember where we're coming from. Boom. Never forget home.
Welcome to an electrifying new epic of agricultural shopping. Nestled in the bustling Lusaka showgrounds, the Nemchem Agri Division is more than just a store. It's the lighthouse of advancement, searching for top-notch biosecurity, cleaning and pest control solutions. Attention, local businesses, your quest ends here. Get ready for a thrilling journey in agricultural retail. The future begins at Nemchem Agri Division, your supermarket for superior quality. The revolution of agricultural shopping starts now. It's about empowering your business and nurturing your community. Call us today or visit our shop.
Is not to simply exist, but to move ahead. To rise up and achieve. To conquer. Kung Fu Energy Drink. Your next conquest. Kung Fu Energy Drink. Master.
Today,
start big
with Victory
Cornflakes.
Victory Cornflakes.
Your journey will be big. Stand on your feet, chase to achieve. Give it your all and just believe that it's gonna be big when you start.
The poor stance is now allegedly involved in schemes meant to incite disorder and provoke public unrest. The ruling party emphasized that it was democratically elected in 2021 and that President Hakainde Hichilema has consistently promoted peace and unity. It's now not less than 11 months before Parliament gets to be dissolved and the people of Zambia go for another election in 2026. Critical questions have been asked whether the UPND have delivered on their campaign promises. This evening, we are privileged to be joined in by the UPND's media director, in Mark Simoe, to answer to the many questions that the people of Zambia have for the party. Media director of the UPND, Mr. Mark Simoe, thank you so much for making time to be a part of tonight's edition of Diamond Live.
Thank you, Andrew, and a very good evening to our dear viewers.
Well, I think let's begin off from the top before we get to the issues pertaining to the campaign promises. Yesterday, we did see the leader of opposition in Robert Chavinga having a press briefing. Thereafter, later in the evening, we did see an audio circulating that was being played by Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. In this audio, the president has been implicated of having worked closely with Mr. Robert Chavinga to bribe the judges in South Africa so that they could render a judgment in favor of this government. This is in relation to the repatriation of the remains of former President Edgar Lungu. What do you make of, this audio where the president has been implicated in?
I think it goes without saying that State House has rubbished the audio in the first place. And I've seen also a post by Chavinga himself where he has indicated in no uncertain terms that it is not a representation of his own content. So it's a matter that, according to him, has drawn the interest of law enforcement agencies. And to that effect, he has opted to report to the police while engaging his lawyers for possible litigation. So, obviously, delving into the nitty-gritties of what may have emerged other than what has been presented on social media may, in a way, be jeopardizing his own matter. So, details as to how much information he knows could only be better answered by himself. But from his posts, what we could deduce was an AI. And it is also interesting that someone commented, or rather posted a very interesting comment that how can there be an AI with someone having some chewing and all those things. It reminds me of a presentation on artificial intelligence, which I had an opportunity to attend and, of course, participated by a number of countries in Yunnan province. It must have been in Beijing, yes. The summit of ministers on AI. One of the key issues that came out of one of the presenters is what AI is capable of doing. That right now there's no question that you can ask AI which cannot provide answers to. Artificial intelligence, which is basically operating like a human being. Any other question, in fact, beyond a human being, you ask it a scientific question, it will answer. You go to woodwork, it will answer. You go to electricity to answer.
Have you taken time to
you get to allow it to produce animal sound, it will answer. You tell it that I want you to respond, but in responding, it should come out like you are in a hole and people should crap it to answer. So that can only be determined through forensic investigations. So when you are dealing with electronic media or cyberspace, anything that is posted in the cyberspace can only be verified using technological advanced equipment that separate what could be termed as true content or not. So in the meantime, the extent to which I can go is by looking at what Chawinga has posted.
But have you listened to the audio yourself?
Of course, I had an opportunity to listen to it.
But just on that, when you speak about investigating and ascertaining, the facts around this, what would you say about the application of just generally the rule of law? Because not the first time that we're hearing of a leaked audio purported to be certain individuals aligned with the UPND and the government of the day. And from what we usually see is a lot of these investigations are not very conclusive. One example we can give is there was a time where the political advisor to the president was in a similar way being implicated at the time. Also, so we heard the Home Affairs, former now Home Affairs and Internal Security Permanent Secretary, Mr. Akafumba, in relation to the Democratic Party. So we've heard of these things before, but there doesn't seem to be conclusive investigations, don't you think?
I don't think so. These matters should be handled as isolated incidences, and they must be understood based on their own environment. Under the circumstances, when we talk about them being conclusive, the first impression that would give is that we are not law enforcement agencies. Until they have given us a position as Zambia Police Service that we have not concluded on this matter, we may not be able to conclude on their behalf. That's not conclusive. I have not heard, in my view, an official statement from the Zambia Police Service that they have abandoned a particular matter. So the extent to which we could perhaps deal with the question you've asked of being conclusive can only be understood from the point of view of law enforcement agencies giving an official position to that effect.
Now, again, getting back to Mr. Robert Chawinga and why some people may believe or deny that it could be artificial intelligence's precedence. With Mr. Robert Chawinga, recently, we heard him make a statement around ambassadors who are accredited to Zambia, something that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs International Corporation had to distance themselves from. And this is somebody who has publicly made his intentions known to be a part of the alliance. Not quite sure if officially is part of the alliance as a Patriotic Front leader, as he has been informing the public. But don't you think that even with Mr. Robert Chawinga getting to work with the UPND, there could be issues that may implicate you as a party?
Now, I think the issue of trying to drag Chawinga into UPND is not a fair proposition, in the sense that he that alleges must prove. People should be able to adduce evidence. How does UPND come in? You may wish to know that even at a time that Mao Sampa had a fight with the late President Edgar Lungu, it was assumed that Mao Sampa was working with us. To date, Mao Sampa has not told you how much he was paid by the UPND to have grabbed the leadership from Edgar Lungu. But they went and reconciled without him, and it has died a natural death without him telling the nation how much he received at any point. Because at that time, UPND again was dragged into this particular political quagmire. But I should mention also that it would only be fair for us to indicate that at a time that the PF started having problems, it is not UPND which decided to resolve that they postponed their presidential elections that they had envisaged. It is not UPND which made an advert to the effect that people that needed to aspire for the presidential position were called upon to tender their applications. UPND was remote from the Patriotic Front system. It is usually the case when the opposition are not performing well, or you literally have no opposition, that blame will go to the ruling party. How is it that we had UPND? Remember, at a point, I want you to give you something that was more conclusive. At the time of the United Party for National Development in the opposition, we had vice presidents leaving. Sometimes before they could leave, you could see certain blogs publishing that one would leave. They will ditch the UPND and then they will move to the Patriot Front. They'll start insulting UPND would move on. So my view is that the opposition should demonstrate enough political stamina to showcase what they have.
In the case of Mr. Robert Chavinga, and where the UPND comes in, he's been quite open about it. He's already endorsed President Hakainde Hichilema for 2026, and has made his intentions known that he wants to be a part of the UPND alliance. So he's been quite public about his endorsement of the UPND.
Of course, he has not done that first, and you need to also understand that UPND has been with the PF in an alliance before. It's not something that is new. If Chavinga wants to come into the UPND alliance, he's welcome. In any case, the Constitution allows you for freedom of association. Sometimes when you have these conversations, they will be discussed as though it is a conversation out of this space, that people are creating something that is abominable. But we should all agree that there is freedom of association, and if we do not want it, we must strike it out of the Constitution. I think that is fair enough for us. So it is within his right. If he believes he has to come to the UPND alliance, he's welcome. But again, it should not be a problem when it involves Chavinga, just like it is not a problem when you saw MMD coming in with Dr. Nevas Mumba. You saw also Honorable Winter Kavimba, who once worked with the Patriot Front, coming to the UPND. And we are yet to have an MOU signed between the party spearheaded by Honorable Kavimba and the UPND. So that should not be seen to be harmful.
My worry is that, aren't you worried as a party? I know that you want to discredit what is in the audio by virtue of the fact that it's AI generated, but the allegations he makes are very damaging on our country, because he alleges that you want to bribe the judges, in South Africa, so that the case involving President Edgar Lungu must go away. Don't you think this is damaging?
It would only be damaging if the undertaking is possible. And what should be made very clear is that that's why there is suspicion in the cyberspace. People can come up with any conversation, they can discuss anything, but as they allude to the fact that if you are alleging, you must be able to prove which judges are being targeted. I think what should be fair enough is for us to indicate that let us allow the court to preside over matters in South Africa in a manner that befits a successful justice system without interference. I know that these debates are expected, and some of these manipulative conversations are expected. At the end of the day, there is only one ultimate that is being sought by the Zambian government, that ECO be buried here. Because what would be more damaging is a former head of state being buried in another country. The issues that you are looking at are too minor to extinguish the bigger picture that we should all have as a country. Can you imagine, think of an African state where one former head of state has to be buried elsewhere. You think of one. Even in those countries, you find that they are, this push to exhume bodies and take them to their countries where they are domiciled. So we should not reduce the funeral to the family.
That's true, that we must introduce the funeral to the family.
Even traditionally,
the family must
there is no family
as well.
There is no family in the neighborhood which mourns alone. It will raise eyebrows. Where you bury neighbors, then you want to mourn and bury alone. That is a very serious issue to deal with. And we must transcend political lines in dealing with the issue relating to
the government has tried all its best to ensure that it sits with the Lungu family to bring the body, but the Lungu family has denied bringing the body to Zambia. They prefer that he must be...
And by the way, they've also denied any further efforts coming through from the government.
This is in opposition to what President Hakainde Hichilema, earlier said. But don't you, and many have asked, Mr. Simoe, that what is it with the body of President Edgar Lungu that this government really wants it to come and be here? Why don't you respect the wishes of the family?
The same question should be asked. What is it that the family is hiding from the South African government and the Zambian government? Okay? Is there anything that we need to know as a country?
So is hiding the correct term, though? Because what they're saying is they just don't want the presence.
No, but even then,
of
you
the
cannot
president, and they were quite specific where they didn't want the presence of the Republican president.
You cannot be angry on behalf of the dead.
But they say that this was from him.
No one can prove to us that. Listen to this. That's what I'm saying. Let us be careful how we traverse around this particular procession, as we have a clear, dignified send-off of the former head of state. It is only a few individuals that are telling us that that's what he wished. No one is able to prove for us. We are using oral tradition to pass on the message.
And those same few are those who are closest to him.
We are saying the death of ECL is beyond the family lines. He's the former head of state. I agreed. So when you ask a question, why is government pushing? It's for the very purpose of national integrity. It is a serious indictment on your sovereignty as a country to have a former head of state buried elsewhere. I'm sure you've seen what is culminating into, where South Africans are having pockets of protests, blocking even innocent Zambians that are seeking medical attention in various private hospitals in South Africa. And I'm sure there's a picture I saw, true or false, where one of the renowned bus operators, passengers being attacked and all those things. But we can obviously get rid of this. It's also strange that you have one person where two graveyards are waiting for him. Okay? So obviously we can bury this and move on to issues that are affecting the living. ECO is gone. He's not coming back. He has to be buried. And the country has to move on. Now, the most prudent way and civil way of resolving issues when everything else has failed is to go to court. Okay? There could be other options that governments can use.
Like what?
I'm saying there could be other options that government could use.
Like what
but
options?
the most civil way of doing it, they can use bilateral arrangements.
What other options are there?
I'll give you an example. When a head of state dies, okay, definitely it becomes a military funeral. They are given a military parade. Okay? But we don't want to get to certain areas when there is still an option of having a civil conversation. And that's what we should mostly propagate for. At the end of the day, when the dead have gone, people still reunite and get back to issues.
Much more
now look at what is emerging now. People are now raising issues of those that have cases in court which are still going on. And there are questions as to whether they will still come back to answer those questions. While you are looking at one issue that border on damaging government, you should also look at issues of bilateral relations. God forbid, in future, another president from South Africa comes and dies in Zambia. Okay? Because we seem to be so hollow in the manner we are observing this issue. It is partly a diplomatic issue.
Have you thought about it in this manner, Mr. Samoa? In an event that we as government, as a people, because we've dragged the Lungu family to court, government wins this particular case, and the body is repatriated, and the widow, Madam Lungu, decides to abandon, the state funeral. How would that look?
Now, it would be also unfair to discuss presuppositions, but to be fair enough for us to look at what happens after we've crossed the bridge. Okay? Because then if we use presuppositions, we may be judging the former first lady wrongly and unfairly.
The time is ticking. We have very few months to go before Parliament gets to be dissolved and the country goes to another election in 2026. You are on record of having stated that it's going to be an easy run for you as a UPND in 2026 because there's no serious opposition. Are you serious with those sentiments?
Very serious about it. Look, UPND has been in the opposition longer than most of the opposition political parties that are purportedly seen to be strong today. We've had a situation where UPND has braved the storm of about three to four different presidents. Okay? 4 different presidents. with the different styles and machinations of dwarfing the opposition. UPND has used different tricks in the general elections they've participated to try to sell themselves until they reached a stage where they exhausted everything and there was no more way of veering off the political circle by the ruling party, and they were knocked out. I want to tell you this. What should have been seen as the strongest opposition political party could have been the Patriotic Front on account of their representation in parliament. Because big political parties in Zambia are determined primarily by presidents in the National Assembly. Now, are you aware that in 2016, PF was already gone? PF was not gone in 2021. Gone in the sense that the head of state then was in the state house with about 22,000 votes. So at that point, he came in under serious contestation on disputed elections. Okay? Alleged rigging of elections and denied right to be heard. Okay? Now, with 22,000 votes, it was already clear that he was gone. To get even 50% plus one clause in the constitution even made it easier for UPND. Because at that time we saw that the ruling party at that time, when UPND was in the opposition, were struggling to win a by-election. To win a by-election, they may either shoot someone, as in the case of Kaoma and the Ron constituencies, or they may chase the opposition using police, as the case was in Chirubi, when the seat there fell vacant, where HH and Shimbakamwiri were escorted by police up to Ruapula. If not, someone who escaped live ammunitions, as the case was in Sesheke, where HH almost lost his life because they wanted this seat of Sesheke, which resulted in the death of their father, Toromio Kangombe. Now, friends, we have explored everything. We are close to about 110 by-elections that have been held. There has never been the opposition political party that has lost this far. We have learned from history that every political party that ejected the ruling party from power demonstrated strength. Even Michael Sata's PF started with one member of parliament. They rose to about 22, 23 members of parliament. They were closing in. Similarly, UPND was growing numbers until the ruling party could not meet a two-third majority. Numbers were shrinking until we got to where we are today. So it is not a journey that was realized by surprise. It was a cumulative undertaking which brought UPND to where it is. Today we do not have a consistent, because the other principle is that when you want to gauge your popularity ahead of the general election, you must command at least a secondary position. Okay? We do not have one single political party that is consistently commanding a secondary position. They are switching. Today it's NCP, the other day it's ZPPA, and so on, just like that. So when you have a cadre of opposition structured in that manner, then they are going to wake up to a root
You've
shock.
heard the response from the opposition that, listen, Mr. MD, the biggest opposition are not political parties. The biggest opposition that you have as a UPND is a Zambian. We've heard this argument.
Now, political parties are formed by human beings. We have heard that debate before. It's a lip service, my brother. Political parties are formed by human beings. Have you seen the performance of citizens in by-elections? Even at a time when people wanted to use the dead body as a manifesto, we advised them to dump the dead body and tell people what plans they had for them. Because the dead is dead. People could not still offer a vote of sympathy because they knew that it was manipulative for them to respond to such a call. And so I want to tell you that the only probable way in an electoral system of gauging your popularity is through the ballot. Never make a mistake.
So does this mean that you're relying on these by-elections? Are they a yardstick for you to measure your popularity, when political history and precedence has shown before that a ruling party can still be able to win by-elections and still not win in the general election. So are you still using this as a yardstick?
I don't know where people are getting it from. Because where we are coming from, for us to know that MMD was going, PF started grabbing seats from MMD. The moment we saw MMD struggling to win a by-election, we knew they were gone. And I remember I was used to interview these people. Michael Sata would say, we have grabbed this one, we are also grabbing that one. Okay? The moment we saw MMD losing by-elections, then you knew they're in trouble. Again, we saw PF struggling to win a by-election, like I mentioned to you, that for them to win a by-election, they would either kill or they would block the opposition. Or they would take over the entire calendar for campaigns.
And they're using the same argument.
Now, here you have a situation where you have the opposition going in the campaign area. You have the Socialist Party even distributing eggs to villagers. Okay? They will even hear them throwing some, tantrums in the field that come rain, come sunshine. You heard Membe himself telling citizens that Lumezi was going to be used as a yardstick for 2026. And I agreed with him. Then they went there and lost. First of all, it is not enough to claim that the ruling party can always win elections but lose the general election. You also need to look at how many people are voting for the opposition. You have a situation where the total number of votes cast is 49. Opposition gets 1, rejected vote 1. How do you explain that? And in some cases, 0. Tell me when UPND in the opposition ever performed like that. Tell me. Because the arrangement should be that for you to be seen as a force to reckon, it must be a neck-to-neck kind of affair. That's how we were operating. You must be growing by numbers. We saw, initially they were saying UPND was only in Southern Province. Broke into Western, broke into Northwestern, then took over Belt Rural, and now got into Lusaka, rural areas, Katuba. They started coming in, and here we are. It must be cute.
Because everyone will be busy. All those ministers, members of parliament from other constituencies will be busy in their own constituencies, and therefore we have to focus there. And there won't be enough room for you as the ruling party to use the resources that you have.
And just on top of that, Chimweka, and in fact, even the observers of these elections say that some of these elections are not free and fair. CCMG, described some of these, elections as the UPND having to buy, voters that are going to vote for you, in these by-elections. This is an independent observer that says this.
No, there's no independence in such things. Aristotle once said every human being is a political animal. I've been a researcher for many years myself, so you cannot claim that there is independence. I know that part of the biggest threat in any research is seen as the researcher's interest. And mostly the researchers have been looking and ideologically on how to avoid the researchers' interest, especially when it comes to data analysis and conclusion of what you may have observed in the field. So I should make it very clear to you that where Ari Kalaba makes such assumptions, from the time we reverted to multi-party democracy, there has never been a person that ever won elections without a seat in parliament. It's not possible. Boxes. I'm sure you've seen that video. It's still online. In Kaoma. Then they asked and said, where are you taking that ballot box with those ballot papers? Can we see it? That's what was happening. In 2016 itself, you had a situation. I want you to compare the situation. In 2016 itself, we had a situation where our colleagues could total the number of votes, and then after totaling them, they were beyond the number of registered voters. You remember the situation of Chawamo Kanyama? Okay? They had to sanction a recount. Then we caught some with pre-marked ballot papers, so many of them. That's why the presidential petition could not be given, could not see the day in the courts of law. Okay? And then we went further. We had a situation where desperate decisions could be made of registering foreigners, infants, systematic NRC registration where those areas perceived to be opposition stronghold could not be given sufficient registration materials deliberately. And we told them that what makes you think that the people you consider to be your stronghold coming from the stronghold, who vote for you.
What gives,
And
the
it came.
UPND, what gives the UPND confidence that you win the 2026 general elections?
We've been doing all sorts of opinion polls. You cannot be so naive that you just move in a particular place. In fact, for your record, the number of MPs UPND will get will be far more than what we have today. Because as the situation is, even in Wapula, they know that there is no opposition. And you need to also understand the traditional background of particular regions politically. For example, talk about a northern province. This is not a province that is used, not used to sing, dance for the opposition. Most of the time, they have been taking a leading role in working with the government of the day. And you are seeing UPND winning parliamentary seats in Wapula, you still think that they are losing popularity. Tell me if PF was winning those seats in Western Province and Northwestern Province, those perceived opposition strongholds then.
Do you think the people today that you're speaking with, the millions of people that you're speaking with tonight, are happy with the performance of the UPND?
It depends on where you stand. If you are PF, you'll not be happy. But let me tell you this.
No, based on what you promised.
Yes, I'm coming. The thousands of youths that we have recruited as teachers are happy. Go to universities where you find mostly voters. They lost their meal allowances. We have reinstated it. They are happy. And they know that our colleagues are saying, should they bounce back, they'll scrap them off again. I know what meal allowances are, because I've been a beneficiary of meal allowances myself at the University of Zambia. Okay? It looks small, but it goes a long way for a student. Have you forgotten that the ones who ejected PF from power are the youths? It's themselves. What was the goal? They introduced employment freeze. They have themselves to blame. When they introduced the employment freeze, UPND promised them that when you give us an opportunity, we shall lift this employment freeze. We shall be recruiting every year in thousands. Every youth watching this program knows that out of 10 of his friends, at least 1 or 2 have been recruited. Even where you stand, the people that you know some that have been recruited, not at that time. You must come to terms with reality on who is now controlling the narrative politically. You go to the council workers. You may be out of your mind to think that the people who were once subjected to 7 to 15 months salary arrears would want to vote for people that had no solution to their life. You must be very careful that 258,000 farmers who went for 2 years unpaid, and they were not sure whenever they submitted their goods and services after harvesting to FRA when they would be paid, and today they are paid on time. You must be very careful to think that they'll vote otherwise. You must be very careful when you go to marketeers that they can wear a PF regalia and never be attacked at Intercity. Things have changed. Media houses were being closed one after the other. They were receiving love letters from the IBA from time to time. The president and the UPND promised that when we come into power, no media shall be closed. Is it true? Yes, it's true. If we all agree that there is employment being created every quarter, let us start with the journalists themselves.
What about one of the major fundamentals, which is on the cost of living? Because you can mention quite a lot that has been done under the current administration, but we also get to understand that for many Zambians, what they look at is the ability to have food on the table, to afford the essentials, and for them that is the most important indicator.
Now, I'll get to that one. Let me first take things, then I want to deal with this particular issue. We promised free education, done. We promised reinstatement of meal allowances, done. We promised revamping of the mining sector, done. Today as we speak, shaft 28, dewatering over 90%. As we talk now, Mimbula Mine has recruited about 3,000 workers. That recruitment is an economic issue. We are giving money on a monthly basis indirectly to people that never had an income. Meaning the situation could have been worse off. Over 25,000 citizens of the Copper Belt were retrenched. People have started getting back jobs as we speak. In Mopani alone, over 1,500 workers have gotten back their jobs. It's an economic issue. We're giving them an income. You must be very careful as you walk into the copper belt, telling the people that you want to bounce back when you had no solution to the mining sector. And you should never underestimate the population of copper belt, because it's secondary to Lusaka. Then the next point that I want to tell you is that the idea of recruiting over 45,000 teachers is an economic issue. When we talk about the cost of living, you should know that someone has gotten a job, which they never had. They're able to get or earn an income. When we talk about 200,000 youths graduating from vocational training institutions in the whole country in 3 years, it's an economic issue. The desks that you are seeing being supplied to schools across the country under CDF is an economic issue. The people that supply are Zambians based in those constituencies, and they are being paid. Now let me get to the general prices of commodities. As you may be aware that there is a trigger to what brought us to the high cost of living. There are two key issues, first of all. One of them, as a market force, could be foreign in nature, which is the cost of fuel or oil on the global market. Secondly, the strength of your currency could also trigger the upward adjustment on the prices of commodities. In fact, number 3, the drought. Here is how the drought pushes the price of mini meal and other food essentials on the market. When you have a scarcity of a particular product and there are many people that want to buy it, meaning the demand is high, the price will go up. And that was the case. We have all agreed that the drought was so acute that over 6 million, according to the projections of government, were threatened. Okay? But government, of course, had to come in to ameliorate the situation with mitigation measures of a supplementary budget of 42 billion kwacha. Okay? Where there were other mitigation measures that were introduced, such as extraordinary social cash transfer, cash for work, and the president promised citizens that no one would die of hunger. The issue of a drought was a national disaster, and that contributed to the upward adjustments of prices of commodities, in addition to the global prices of oil, which affected this country adversely. Now, what are the circumstances? The circumstances are that instead of us mourning and pitching a tent, having a funeral over a drought, government had to take initiative. What was the initiative? Number 1, government decided to earmark 17,000 farmers so that they could help them with irrigation equipments. And as at last year, and in fact January this year, we started getting winter maize.
In conclusion.
And we have continued to get winter maize. Now, what is the state of affairs? The state of affairs is that because the president has been emphasizing on growing the economy by attracting foreign direct investment, including partnerships, so that we can have more, we manufacture more than we export to attract forex. And it is paying off. As we speak today, just a few kilometers from here in Chivombo, we are able to get batteries and export to 8 countries so as to attract forex. With the revamping of the mines, that is not a smoke screen. When the mining sector starts producing and exporting, the attracting forex, then our currency will start appreciating. Today, Bloomberg has projected our economy to be growing at 6%. It is not a joke. This is an economy that we found in negatives. It was growing at 2.7% GDP in negatives. So to move it to 1 and then move it in a short space is what has given us this pomp and splendor on the international scene with regard to how we are organizing the affairs of our economy. So we are headed somewhere as a country. And all things being equal, inflation has started going down.
Mr. Max Mue, UPND Media Director, thank you so much for making the time to speak.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and it's been a pleasure. Hope we can have as many of these issue-based programs as possible.
Certainly. That was the UPND Media Director, Mr. Max Mue, speaking about a number of issues regarding how far they've gone in achieving their campaign promises, but also talking about the leaked audio and what the position of the party is. On behalf of the entire production crew, thank you so much for watching. See you again on Wednesday for the exclusive edition of Diamond Life. My name is Andrew Mwanza.
My name is Jumwega Chileshe. Enjoy the rest of your night. Up next is the Stephen Pui Show.